And today we have the session called Knowledge Empowers, brought by Katarina, aka Ket, Maciej, aka Kolarz,
Ciao, okay?
and Barbara, aka Baruch.
Hi.
So we all
Don't be so
have.
shy, don't be so shy. Hi, I'm not here.
I'm this shy Chinese girl. No, please don't talk to me. So each and every one of us have like tons of experience, not only from corporate world, but from different countries that we lived or traveled. And we want to share this with our listeners. And also every time we're gonna have different topics. Today we picked cultures or culture. And this will be actually our regular topic because we have really a lot to share about the cultures. And especially in a corporate world. So my first topic that I'm opening up is why is culture important in a corporate world? And each and every one of us worked in global team. Kolarz, you go first.
To what? Explain
What?
myself?
Why do you think it's important in the corporate world?
The
Or
culture?
what you've learned?
So, what I've learned. Oh, there's so much. Okay, like there's. Well, I would start probably with a different thing, and my question is like, how would you define culture? Like, Katka,
I know.
how
I would
how
tell
would
you. I will tell you. To me, culture is values, set of values, and set of customs. Let's say.
Okay.
To me, that's that.
I like that. And the more you know about those customs
And values.
and values, it helps you with better relationship among of your colleagues from different countries.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would add there also that it's based on experiences we have, because that's like forming our habits and those customs, as you said. And I feel that they are really hard to break out, like if you, and we can see it also in our cultures in terms of not corporate ones, but also national wide. And in this period, mostly like when you have a culture of distrust towards something, you see that there are some messages like, oh, you do that to stay safe, but there is always the group of people who distrust the official media, and then you go that. So it all goes sideways. So why I see that it's also important in the corporate life or everywhere you go, whether you have a community or you have a corporate, you have a school, every community, every organization has their own culture, basically, and it's influenced by either your connections you have within the community or within the nation, within the family. So all this actually contributes to that. And for that, I see that when it's being formed either by our history or by these connections, we end up creating our own mindset and contributes towards our own mindset, and it sets up how we are going to behave. And that's really important for our collaboration and survival at the end. Like you create and live a community of what about 50, 100 people tops usually, and you try to live with them so that you can survive as long as you can. So knowing these patterns and having this your culture, you know what you can expect, you know how to behave, what to say, what to do when you meet your friends. For example, if there is a handshake or not, it influences you. So this is why I feel that the culture is important, because it impacts our well-being and survival kit of what we need to do.
I would also add there a few things that if it's possible, if either company has money or you have some money, to actually travel to that country, meet with those people face to face, because that gives such a huge value. I remember when when we had one development team in China, Dalian, and another development team in Bratislava, Slovakia, and there was this, I don't want to even say rivalry, but there was huge mistrust and lots of misunderstanding, and they were not willing to even listen to each other. Or maybe one side was willing to listen, the other wasn't. And then I was able to get the architect and a developer and the project manager to Dalian to meet the people. And when they saw how super smart these guys are, and just that English was the biggest barrier because their English wasn't superb. But now when they could see them face to face, and the guys could use hands and dictionary and someone who spoke really good English, and finally they were able to explain what their issue is, and if these guys do specific developments, how much it conflicts their side when the API was not willing to communicate between those two softwares. And they realized, oh my God, they are as smart as us. We were just not willing to listen properly. And ever since then, there were no issues, misunderstanding, etc., because each side was willing to patiently listen and try to understand what the other side wants to say. And it was just that one face-to-face meeting. It was just unbelievable that how much that helped. So that would be my suggestion to any corporation, if possible, meet at least once. That's a very well spent money.
It's really funny thing how much the relationship, like personal relationship, impacts your work. That's unbelievable. You think that, oh, I've chat with the person every day or something like that, but no, it's not the same as when you meet them face to face and you spend some time with them directly.
Exactly. And I also remember, you guys know Lisa, so she was our project when she was announced as a project manager. And I don't want to say it's because I don't want to stereotype, but I am going to stereotype right now that the Chinese don't know how to say no. And there was always said, yes, we can do it, but the deadlines were never met. And that created issue for me, or then for the rest of the stakeholders. And that time, what I said to myself, okay, I have to have a really proper talk. And I had a talk with her where the first thing we started was the culture. And I told her, hey, Lisa, forget that you're Chinese for a second. And she was like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I know it's very deep in you that you have to please the others and you're not allowed to say no. You have to always say yes. Now, when we deal in projects and in a, let's say, American company, I need to know, and it's okay to say no, or you are not able to deliver it, but give me another proposal or different solution by when, because then I am able to explain why it's not possible to be done this way, why we are not able to meet the deadline. Maybe we need more resources, maybe we need people to work, overwork, etc., etc. And slowly, step by step, we were learning about one another. And then she really suppressed, and she tried for the very first time to say no. And she was really afraid that either she'll be told something bad, or maybe even fired. And when she realized, oh, that's what makes me a powerful project manager, because I am able to say no and really show the real, how to say that, like the real examples of where we stand, because we can now propose different solutions. It makes us a more valuable team. And that was really hard, especially really when I told her, forget you're Chinese.
It's actually a very powerful thing that she did.
Yes.
Because that's not really easy, like to forget your set of values, right? So as Kolaj said, it's sometimes hard to let go.
Yeah, and then you have exercises like I'm doing thanks to the Otvorenara. We have there one game called XY where you need to vote either you put X or Y, and based on the outputs, you have four. Okay, I thought that you have 4 teams, and each team is part of this game, and your goal is to collect as much as you can. And each team votes X or Y, and based on these voting, you get points. And it's funny to see how people react, mostly when they betray each other, or when they make an agreement like, oh, we will agree to this, like everybody will put Y or everybody will put X from now on. And then suddenly there is like one guy who says like, I'm not gonna join you guys, and sorry, I'm gonna piss you off probably, but I'm going to give a different letter right now. And you see like how he's collecting all the points for him. So like, oh, we are so screwed. And this is actually to see how the culture actually is there in the team, because you see the distrust, the communication, if it's open or not, understanding if they actually play the game as a game or they play it as a real simulation for their work. And it's always surprising that I'm not gonna name the company, but there was the worst result ever I had with like guys played like the game for 50 times or something like that. We had the worst.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it was a game. There was a lot of mishap and stuff like that. It was really nice to observe the situation and the communication around it. But I think that it helped a lot. I mean, afterwards, the relationship and the communication opened a lot more than before. So it was a good starter of the conversation afterwards.
2 questions. Can you give us an example of a question based on which they put the answer X or Y?
The question, there was no question. It was like you choose X or Y, and here is the value of points you will get for X or Y. So like, for example, if you vote 1X and 3 Ys, you will get those who voted X will get 90 points, those who get Y, no points. You can find this game, it's really available on Google. So there were no specific questions like what color do you like or something like that.
And then second question, in the group, were there people from different countries or were they all Slovaks?
There were people from different countries as well.
So a mixture of different cultures.
Yes. It was a mixture of cultures, a mixture of roles actually within the team, and also the backgrounds. Like there were various people with the various backgrounds. Those who you can actually check also the evolution of trust. That's a really nice application where you can see. Evolution of trust. It's a really nice application online where you can see how the trust goes through evolution in your team. So if there is someone who breaks the rule, what will happen with the rest? If someone mimics you and does the same as you are doing, what will happen to the rest, and how the trust within the group of people evolves further and further. And if you have there several assholes, and you can see, and you can play around, and you can see how many assholes you need in your group, so that the rest of the group converts for assholes as well, so that you will get the mistrust there.
By the way, dear listeners, every time we will publish this podcast, below the sort of a description, we will also write down the books we mention or application we mention, so you can have it easier access to it, because Collage is actually one of our, I call him my expert and my source for really good, valuable books, because he reads them first and then he recommends them to me. So I can save myself time not reading some not valuable book.
So now I need to recommend less so that I don't have to search so much on the internet to look for it. Okay.
No. Cool. So evolution of trust application. Okay.
I will share with you both those XY which you get, and also the evolution of trust links.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, what else we have here on the cultures?
But I would have a question, Baruch. You lived for a long time in China.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Meow.
Yeah. Meow. No, that's something else, I guess. What is the most different thing, or when it comes to cultures, when you compare Slovak and Chinese culture?
I think actually the funny thing I noticed is, like, as Slovaks, we are like, when you look at the map, actually, did you know, like, when you go to Brazil or like South America, in their map, Americas are in the middle. Do you know that?
Makes sense.
Well, so when you say like from east to west and show it on the map, like they probably cannot start like at the end and then at the beginning of the map. So, so from Slovak point of view, when we go from east to west, then I also feel culturally Slovaks are in the middle. Like when we compare Eastern cultures and Western cultures, not just Slovaks, it's like a whole Europe. As you go, even in Europe, you notice like East Europe is different from West Europe.
What do you mean by in the middle? I don't think that you mean geographically.
Yeah, it's not just geographical, it's also culturally, we are in the middle. So for example, self-confidence and how we express our confidence. So when you look at Asian cultures, they usually try to like suppress my own ego, right? The group is more important. And when you go to Americas, they usually like are very individualistic people. Like they want to express their own egos, right? And it's important to be different. And it doesn't really matter much, like how much you fit in. So like, for example, in this example, we are also in the middle. Like we look at the group. For example, I waited here. I didn't want to insert myself forcefully, like when you were speaking, but I think if this was a discussion between other people that are like, of Western cultures, more Western than we are, then it would be like more heated discussion, and people would like interrupt themselves a little bit more. Like that's something. Of course, I have it in myself that I'm not a person who would like to like force herself into situations. But also, like after 6 years in China, it really like enforced this side of me, because it was not really good to be the one who like, let's say, overrides the group.
Stands
like,
out?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Does that mean I would have issues there?
If you
my extrovert personality.
No. Actually, like this is why Chinese are so nice, or why China is such a nice place to be in as an expat, is because they actually like Western people. Like they don't take you as Chinese, which is actually a good thing in this case in Chinese culture. Especially if you are white, but that's a different story. The races in China and how they perceive it.
Let's be politically correct. Caucasians.
Okay, so if you're Caucasian, then like if you're Caucasian female, especially, like you will have easier time in China. Yeah. So, so if you stand out in Chinese culture because you're Caucasian female, then like that's not a bad thing. But that's just Chinese culture, right? So, but if you are Chinese, you wouldn't be like that. Set of expectations would be different, right? So that's again like about values. Like if Chinese value hierarchy, right? So and on that hierarchy, they still not everyone, but still there are some people who will perceive that Caucasian people are kind of like on a higher level than Chinese. So
I remember when I came to Dalian, and you're right about the hierarchy. And for me, and you guys know me well, I don't respect hierarchy at all. What I do respect are people. And if the person is nice, trustworthy, does take care of their own people or their surroundings, then I will respect you as a human being. And I remember when I came to Dalian and I approached the center lead, so the highest person in our team, and I said like, Bill, how come you're still here? What's going on? Go home. Look at the people. They are not able to go home yet. And I saw all the heads like up on me. First of all, few shocks like, how could I speak to him this way? And then the other server was like, please tell him more so we can go home. And he was like, I am so sorry, kid. Okay, let's go for dinner. And they were so surprised, but that was just me. I literally, I didn't want to offend the culture or anything, but that's just the way I speak to my colleagues, my friends, right? So if I'm polite, it would be okay, but it was okay. There was no harms done. But yeah, I do remember the shocked faces, like, how dare she to talk to him this way? And Bill was really like, okay, let's go for dinner. It was very interesting.
Interesting thing is that you don't have to travel that far when it comes to hierarchy and following the hierarchy. I remember my colleagues in Romania, and they are also a lot into hierarchy. And there is this similar effect which you mentioned, like, for example, not going home sooner than your boss, or not leaving really sooner. And I remember that there were multiple occasions when I was like I know that with my manager, I was like, yeah, this is rubbish, just get rid of it, or you do that, because it was like it's in our culture, I would say, that we can go straight forward with, that's how our relationship was established. But then I was like, yeah, well, advising consulting Romanian friends, go to your manager and say that, like, you need that you need to go sooner. Oh, that's not done in our culture. In our offices, we can't leave sooner. Like, what do you mean you can't leave sooner? Well, because then everybody think that I'm slacking, and my manager sees that, and they think that I'm slacking. And I'm like, wait, what? And I can't tell it to my manager because he's my manager. And I'm like, what? So that you don't need to go that far, you know? And it's probably happening, not even like, maybe we can look into different companies and they will have the same struggle as well. Like, you don't need to go that far.
This is what I said. It's about values, and it's really hard to kind of erase it. So, like, if you tell them, like, yeah, do not do this, like, it's useless in corporate world, but it's so ingrained in people that it's not just a matter of words, like, yes, don't do it. They will still do that. Yeah.
That's when the culture comes in the aspect. What is the company culture to allow open communication? And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to work on my leadership or even become a manager, just to understand viewpoints. And I've met really amazing leaders in my life, and later they become my mentors. And one said really important sentence to me: a manager is a servant for his or her employees. And it's very important for every employee to understand manager is not a queen or a king. Manager is another human being who has different responsibilities compared to you. And you, depends position you are, you're the subject matter expert in that particular position. And whether the manager likes it or not, they need you. Because manager can be only successful as his or her employees. And if the leaders create an open culture of open communication, straightforwardness, the companies would actually thrive much better. But if there is a fear, right, it takes months, sometimes years, and then no one can come up with any proposal or solution.
That's but I would sort of sentence. That's a long.
I know. And I would, for now, just sort of close it down here. So this will be our first podcast, and we will later deliver podcasts once a week. And if you want us to maybe tackle different areas, let us know. And we'll tackle that down and we'll talk about it, and maybe even later invite some guests, and we'll see.
This is the end. I have so much to say more. Oh.
I know.
I now, as you started to mention all those quote, like the quote, I remember the one from Simon Sinek saying that, you know, you don't go to work to be managed. You go to work to be led. Nobody wants to be managed. Everybody wants to be led.
And And later we will reveal how our collage had a one-on-one call with Simon Sinek. And no, I am not envious. Of course I am. So guys, thanks for listening. Stay tuned for the next podcast. Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.
Baruch is waving instead of saying.
Bye-bye.
Just so you know, this podcast represents our own opinions, experience, and our own ideas. We do not represent any official statement from our employers, and it is not their official channel representing the company.